Yo, yo, it's time to discover the flow. Shout out to the bros. You know, I like to welcome everybody to discover the flow. No matter how you discover the show or discover the bros, now you about to see how far we can go, because it's time for discover the flow. Yeah, cowabunga do. You know live is how we come to you. Turn the levels up when you hear the boys coming through. The Pod Squad giving you just what you need, hitting you with a new special guest every week. Don't you dare hit skip, man, it's Tristan and Kip. DTF Pod about to take you on a trip. Mega Ran bring the heat, yeah. But be clear, I wasn't even supposed to be here. Welcome to Discover the Flow. No matter how you discovered the show or discovered the bros, now you about to see how far we can go, because it's time for Discover the Flow. Let's start the show.
You guys won the Super Bowl with the fridge and Jim and all that. Yeah. Well, we won an NFL championship, I think in 1953 or 55. It's been, we never sniffed. The closest we got was the NFC championship last year. And then you guys got Ben Johnson, and off you go. How about that?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
I grew up with a grandmother who was a Cubs fan, so I've seen true heartbreak.
Did she live to see it?
She did.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy, because that for people who are sports fans and you grew up rooting for the Cubbies or the Tiger, whomever, and you think, oh my God, and you literally say at times you're like, God, I hope I get to see a Super Bowl before I die.
Right.
And then your sweet grandmother is much closer to the end than the beginning, but she got to experience that. That's a great thing, you know?
I grew up with her. I'm a Chicago fan in general. The only time I root against the Cubs is if they were playing the Sox.
Of course.
But I used to always tell her, because she would say, when am I going to see you in a Cubs jersey? And I said, over your dead body. Well, when she passed away last year, guess what she left me? That's what I got when she passed away last year. I got her Cubs jersey.
That's pretty slick, man. You know, you even get to go after you've left. You still can go, hey, Tristan.
Right.
That's wonderful.
And you actually wore it too. That's the best part.
That's great.
I did wear it.
Great. Good for you. I think it's wonderful. Well, I as I said, it's a pleasure to be with you guys and a privilege. So thank you very much for letting me tag along today.
Well, it's a privilege to us because we grew up on you. We grew up with your voice in our ears. It's 30 plus years of voice acting. 30 plus years that you were in the zeitgeist of humanity.
Well, isn't that something? It's funny. All I got to do is start doing this, and you fully grown men do exactly what you're doing now. Or if I say,
turn into children.
I'm Tristan and Kip, Nerf. Or if I say, hello, nurse. Or if I say, hey, you guys, stay away from Jimmy's mom. I don't know what it is about.
That's funny.
People love that little dude. He's so freaking odd, and they just love him. So I'll take it. No, thank you.
It's fantastic.
It's very kind of you to say you grew up with me, because a lot of people say they threw up with me, which is probably not hyperbole. But honestly, I have to tell you both. I grew up in Michigan, so I'm just across the lake or up the road and to the right from you guys. But I just love it when your reaction is the reaction. And that's the best part of my gig. I'm going to be 70 on my next birthday. I've been in Hollywood for almost 48 years. I'm still working all the time. But were it not for things like podcasts and the ubiquity of Comic-Cons, man, they're springing up like zits on a 12-year-old, you know, and they're they're a blast. And I love them, I think, primarily, selfishly, because first, and unselfishly, everyone is welcome. And, you know, we often see a lot of kids of all ages on the autism spectrum at these events for whom these characters mean often their ability to connect with anything resembling, believe it or not, reality. And by that, I mean, they have something they can share, like that they both, someone who's neurotypical and a young man who's not can both love Ninja Turtles and experience it together. But for me, selfishly, oh my God, you guys, I go almost, I mean, literally around the world, and I've been to C2E2 a zillion times, and um, the incredibly kind people who fly or drive from all over and say, well, yeah, we live in Saskatchewan, but this is the closest Rob's going to be. He's going to be in Naperville. So we'll fly down, and we already take a 30% hit on our money, And then they drive and they get a hotel and they rent a car if they fly and they whatever. And then they get a ticket to get in. They stand in line. I do what I'm doing now. I love to talk because I want to hear these stories. And they'll wait as long as it takes to thank me. Are you kidding me? You guys watched. Ain't nobody shoved a gun in your head, and a lot of times it's your parents, or the parents will say, oh, we grew up watching Animaniacs or Jimmy Neutron or, Goofy Movie or whatever. And so we're going to watch it with our kids, and they all love it, and they all come and visit. And then you hear also just that is plenty, because they thank me, for God's sake. I could have a script written by Jesus, and $30 million is someone else's money. And if you guys don't watch, it's a tax write-off. And I'm looking for another gig. But then you hear from people to whom these characters mean literally almost saving their lives. And you guys have probably heard this on your own show, where people contact you and say, thank you for having Mr. So-and-so or Ms. So-and-so on your podcast. I was really struggling with A, B, and C. But thanks to you guys getting this sweet woman on, I'm starting to figure stuff out. I'm getting my life together. I'm seeing a therapist, whatever it is. That's incredible, because you meet people, in my case, Mr. Paulsen, I was in the foster home system from the time I was 6 months old to 18. And I had to go to 5 different homes as a child. Oh my God, I can't even imagine that. Right. And then they'll say, but as long as there was a television, Ninja Turtles was my de facto family. And they're saying it sober as a judge, man. And he's got his wife, his 2 kids are all wearing Ninja Turtle shirt. I'm 52, Mr. Paulsen, but I got to tell you, oh my goodness, boys, that stuff. And it's not just me, all of us, we go home and sort of do a sort of mini post-mortem on the weekend. And the bottom line is that we all say, who has a gig where you go home exhausted from saying thank you to people who chose to watch, So, yeah, man.
But like you were saying, sometimes the people didn't, that's not what they chose. Well, they chose, obviously, but it's the only thing that they had that was standard. It was a straight line for them.
Exactly. Perfect way to put it. A straight line. That's beautiful, because it's supposed to be that way when you're a kid. I mean, no one gets out of here without a bunch of dings. No one. It might happen when you're a child, and you lose a parent, or you have no parents, or you're in the foster system. But by and large, you get measles and mumps and all that other stuff, and you get your heart broken, or you lose your pet, or you break a leg. But it's supposed to be sort of, like you said, a relative straight line till you get to the place where you're going to spend the vast majority of your life as an adult. And when you look back, and boy, I mean, for me, it was all about Looney Tunes and Bullwinkle, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and the Flintstones, all Johnny Quest, all that stuff. And I watched it, and my siblings and I watched it with our parents. And shit, I could watch Bugs all day. He's 80, but good stuff is good stuff. And animation, I think in particular, I mean, movies in general, and now with the option to literally stream anything that has ever been created anywhere, right? It's pretty cool to be associated with anything that becomes arguably important in the context of the cultural zeitgeist. And it makes a difference to people. You know, at Ninja Turtles is 40. I think it's generated $8 billion in merchandise. It takes you guys 4 years to make that much money. And it takes you I'm glad you got that. You're making $8 billion in 4 years. I'm taking a cut. Yeah. But you see my point.
I just checked the account. I don't see that 8 billion yet.
You better talk to Kip. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on between the two of you guys. But
I don't have the checkbook, so
fair enough.
We're only in year 2. That's the problem.
Fair enough.
We're getting screwed here. We're getting screwed here. That's what's happening.
No, so to those people to whom those characters are essentially, as you said, the only straight line or only thing that they can relate to, things that help them relate the fourth time they move to a new school before they're 11 or something, something to help them relate to new kids without thinking they're going to get the shit beat out of them, whatever.
Okay. Well, because animation everybody at that time, it doesn't go away.
It doesn't. I mean?
It's something you can carry with you from cradle to grave. Exactly. Like that's why even places like Six Flags, you know, when people are standing in lines in the hot sweltering sun, they play the Warner Brothers cartoons. You know why? Because somebody's inevitably going to look up and be like, "Oh, I remember this one."
Everybody. And it's powerful shit.
I gotta ask, Rob.
Sure.
How does it feel like to be mentioned in the same breath as people that you grew up watching? Okay, you said you grew up watching Looney Tunes and things like that. So you grew up with Mel Blanc, like the man of a million voices, the king of voice acting, right?
Yeah.
There's Jim Cummings, there's Maurice LaMarche, there's Lorenzo Music, and you. You all get named in the same conversations. How does that feel? Like as somebody that's just doing their thing? How does that affect you?
Thank you for asking. It is first of all, it's a wonderful to even hear you ask that question. I'm still, Rob Paulsen, who went to high school in Grand Blanc, Michigan, man. The only other thing I wanted to be in my life was a hockey player for the Red Wings. That's it. And I got to college and I was pretty good, but man, some kid from Winnipeg freaking drilled me with my head down, and it was a completely legal hit. When I got my bearings, I thought, okay, well, I ain't going no further because these boys probably aren't good enough to make it to the show, and I'm not, and they're killing me. So my second desperate passion has always been performing. And to answer your very sweet question, it is surreal. I know that there's no, one top to bottom scale of who's who and how it changes from time to time about, voice actors. But anytime, with all due respect to Mr. Blank, that I mentioned in the group that my contemporaries, I remember telling my mom when I said, I'm on my way to Hollywood. And she said, "Why, honey, how long, typical, of course, how long, what if you, I know I'm your biggest fan, but what, fair enough questions, how long are you going to give this?" And I said, "Well, Mom, I hope I make a living. I don't know if anybody who comes here says, I'm going to be rich. Maybe for me, I came out here because I couldn't not. This was the option. But I said, when I think if I ever feel like I can cultivate the respect of the people whom I respect, that'll kind of be making it, because it would mean that I'm working enough, but I'm getting their respect. And that is what's happened. And it's mutual. All the people you mentioned, including the late, beautiful Lorenzo, in his case was, and the rest of them are, dear friends. We've all been to each other's kids' birthday parties, parents' funerals, weddings, all that. Jimmy Cummings said to me a couple of months ago, he said, I think I've worked with you more than anybody else. And that's a lot coming from Jim. So that alone is remarkable. But I'll tell you, this is a great story. You never know. I talk for a living. I haven't shut up since you guys are.
That's what we're here for.
Hey, this is why we asked you here.
Fair enough.
Our listeners want to hear what you have to say, not what we have to say.
Well, and you know what? That's why you guys are successful, because you're very gracious to your guest. I've listened to several of your podcasts, and you're right. It is about your guest. And I had a podcast for a while, and I would have all of those people come on, and then it went into different permutations. But yeah, the idea was to make it about them. So yeah, spot on. But I did have a chance once to work with Mel, which still makes me shake when I think about it, because we did not a very good movie, but we did a Jetsons movie a million years ago, and I played Judy's boyfriend. I think his name was Sky Rocker, and I sing and stuff. I had a ball, and Mel played Mr. Spacely, Jetson. And so they had Mel, they had, George O'Hanlon, just before he died, the original George Jetson. They had, I forgot. Oh, the only thing they didn't have is they made a decision to have Tiffany. You guys may not remember, but there was a pop singer named Tiffany a million years ago. And God bless her, she did just fine. And, they wanted to put a name in there. So they hired her instead of Janet Waldo, who is still around working all the time. She was probably in her 60s, who was Judy Jetson. And it broke her heart. And the rest of us were like, why would you do that? And you know what? The first review in the LA Times from Charlie Solomon, who used to review movies, including animated stuff, he's passed away now, but he said, whoever thought it was a good idea to hire Tiffany as Judy Jetson ought to be ashamed of themselves. And that gives you an idea of how powerful that stuff is. So on this movie, I played her boyfriend, and I went in to do some post-production looping where you go in and revoice something, or they've changed the line, the words, and you have to redo it. And the director in those days was Gordon Hunt, who was Helen Hunt's dad, and just a marvelous gentleman and a wonderful director and coach. So I got to work, and I looked through the glass of the recording booth. I said, Mel Blanc. I said, Gordon. He said, yeah, how about that? I said, I'm a little early. Can I watch? And he said, oh, no, you're working with him. You guys are doing pickups together. Okay, great. So I kind of girded my loins, as it were, and I walked in and I said, Mr. Blank, like anyone with a pulse, what a privilege to meet you. Thank you so much for my child. Thank you for all the stuff that we just talked about. And I did it. You're very welcome, young man. I know he hears it all the time. Doesn't matter. Thank you, my young man. It's great. It's nice to meet you, and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, I'm never going to get this chance again, ever. Because he's probably late 70s. So I said, Mr. Blank, before we get started, if it's not too much trouble, he knew exactly what I wanted. Takes off his glasses. He goes, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?" And I thought I needed a Caesar salad. And I was flipped out. And oh man. And so now this all pertains to your very simple question, which I take all the way around the Cape of Good Hope to get to you.
We like to say we're fans of Kevin Smith, so we're used to 40-minute long answers.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're good. We're good.
Wonderful. Well, me too. He's another great guy. But now, while none of us, the lovely people whom you mentioned, nor Billy West or John DiMaggio or Tress MacNeille or Tara Starr, none of us would.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave anybody out, but there's such a list these days.
And now we all kind of congealed, as it were, or everything conspired at the right time. Like a lot of us, I came out here ostensibly to do live action and music. I'm the singer, actor, blah, blah, blah. Well, what happens often, you guys, and there may be writers, producers, actors, people, young folks in your audience who have questions about that. But what often happens when you come here, you put yourself unknowingly, you put yourself in a position to get lucky, because I had gone as far as I could, traveling around the country doing itinerant theater and rock and roll bands in Michigan. I thought, well, I'm at a point now, I'm 22, and ain't nobody going to help me here if I want to try to get in the big kids pool, not here. So that was the option. It wasn't like I was super courageous. It was, that's what you got to do. So you get out here and one thing leads to another. And you ever thought about doing animation? Well, yeah, but it's only Saturday morning. Well, not anymore. There's this new show they're putting together, a toy thing, and it's called Transformers. Would you like to go read for it? Sure. Well, that was all it took. You go in and see people I grew up watching on television, episodic television, dressed like we are now, having the time of their lives, because they're all actors, but they're doing the most, the sort of the purest form of play acting. Like, okay, Kip, you be the handsome prince. Tristan, you be the beautiful princess. No offense. And Rob,
see, even he sees it.
Yeah, I'm going to come and save Tristan and get a big smooch. But you see my point is you can do that. You can do whatever you want. You can be a talking avocado. If you're white, black, straight, gay, it doesn't matter. You're Catholic, atheist. It's just, you're there to literally do what you would do in mom and dad's garage. If you want to put on a show. And man, I thought, this is cool, because I don't have to fit the suit. I'm judged only on my chops, which will get better if I get to work with these people. And so I rode both sides of the showbiz fence for a while. And then a few years after that, I said, if somebody wants to use me on an on-camera thing, I mean, Hollywood's not going to break down my door, but I have friends at American Film Institute to do student films, but otherwise I'll jump in this as much as I can take. And my timing was perfect. Same with Jim, same with that, because this was this renaissance of, the Disney Afternoon, Kids WB, before streaming and all of that. But
that's when we used to wake up excited on a Saturday morning.
Parents big bowl of cereal.
You got a bowl of Lucky Charms.
Totally.
You're sitting crisscross applesauce in front of the TV.
When I told my parents about Mel, I said all I could think of was eating Cocoa Krispies, watching TV in Livonia, Michigan, and it was spectacular. So now, as I mentioned earlier, while none of us would ever presume to compare ourselves to Mel, it's first of all, it's subjective, but objectively, we'd be way outclassed, and we're fine with that. However, like with you guys, if I look at both you handsome gentlemen, as we did earlier, and I say, Narf, you guys do that.
Damn it.
Isn't that great? Both of these handsome young men are laughing.
You can't help
exactly, because you can't help it. And I'll guarantee you.
Because I have decades of memories of that sound. Just that
sound. Quoted it a million times. We've tried it ourselves too.
And we failed miserably.
I know too many people.
I have this for a reason. Like I had my son watch this along with the Animaniacs, and he thinks it's the greatest thing too.
See,
and he's about to turn 21. That's another generation.
That's exactly my point. I'm almost 70, so when we often get 3 generations of people who come up and say that, I was in college or high school when I heard about Animaniacs, and then I went to college, and then I got married, and my wife and I love it. Well, now we have grandchildren who are 10, and we all love. And the first day of recording, this is all relevant because that's a show that was done and continues to deliver at a really high level. And
the first day of recording,
it does. And it's absolutely a result of Tom Ruegger, the creator, and Steven Spielberg. because the first day of recording, Mr. Spielberg said, look, we're not making a kid's show. We're making a show for kids of all ages, a la Looney Tunes or Rocky and Bullwinkle. Because they were all written on different levels on purpose. Cultural references that meant something to your parents because it was somebody from, movie star of the 40s that I didn't know of, whatever. And the same thing here. Those scripts were, you couldn't read them without laughing and snorting. They were just really good. But when you have Mr. Spielberg helming the thing, people jump over each other to try to work with him for obvious reasons. And so he gets the best artists, the best writers. Everybody won Emmys. Everybody. We even Pinky and the Brain Christmas special beat The Simpsons one year for prime time Emmy. Only once.
And it was so good that you guys, barely anybody ever remembers that Steven Spielberg was involved with it. That's how good it was.
Well, thank you.
Except for the fact that his name is on every title card.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. But your point is well taken, Tristan, because the younger folks, kids, they might have heard of Steven because he's so ubiquitous, but they don't. That's not an influence. It's, oh, my grandparents showed me this, or I went over to my cousin's house and my aunt and uncle were saying, hey, Rob, have you ever seen Animaniacs? No, what's that? Oh my God, Mom and Dad, you never know. And that they don't say, watch this because Steven Spielberg made it. But
I just had the weirdest, random
that had
thought.
some of the.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Kip absolutely loves the movie Ready Player One.
Oh man!
And Steven Spielberg puts everything ever in there. I wonder if anywhere, somewhere in the background, is the Animaniacs hidden.
I'm pretty sure there probably are.
What's interesting now?
There are so many scenes in that movie where there's so many characters just in the background.
That amazing, and it's the same thing with the last.
There are the Ninja Turtles are in there, just for the record.
Crazy. Well, and I have been impossibly fortunate. I got to be 2 turtles, for Christ's sake. If I live to be 100, I can knock them all out. But having 2 cracks at that franchise, when I was 31 on the first one and 55 on the second, both of which were really good,
And that's, again, another time I got to introduce my son to you, because when I was watching the original, that was my Ninja Turtles.
Raphael, yeah.
And then when it was 2012 to 2017, he was watching Nickelodeon, and I'm like, I know that voice.
You're right. The same guy
voice.
The same guy that used to say cowabunga is now saying butt cannons. It has butt cannons. Greatest lines in the world.
Right?
Man, you're talking to a lottery winner, and I know it. Ninja Turtles twice, Animaniacs and Pinky the Brain twice, Jimmy Neutron, which is huge, Goofy movie.
And
that thing is huge.
And I'm now realizing you're the second person we've had from Jimmy Neutron.
Who'd you have?
Because we had Megan Kavanaugh.
Oh, I love
absolute sweetheart.
I was
gonna say, there's another tie in there though. She's not just you guys didn't work together. You guys both worked. Or you're the only 2 people that we've had on. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to word this right. You're the only 2 people we've had on that have both worked for Mel Brooks as well.
Oh, Spaceballs. Who was the other person?
Megan Kavanaugh.
Megan Kavanaugh worked in
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Men in Tights.
And
also had 2 very close friends of mine in that movie, one of whom has passed away, was Bob Ridgely. And Bob was always in Mel's movie. In Men in Tights, he played the hangman, who the guy who's going to hang. And Cary Elwes is a dear friend of Maurice's and mine. And I just spoke to him a couple of days ago. A year ago this time, he lost his home. So, but he's doing great.
Cary Elwes, is.
He was Wesley in Princess.
When you have a short list, when we started this podcast, we made a short list of people. The Princess Bride is my favorite thing that's ever been created. So he's one of the top people for me. Him and Mandy Patinkin.
Oh God, no kidding. I've never had the pleasure to meet Mandy. We both, Mo and I, met Carrie because and get this, I don't know if you remember, but for me, my definitive movie version of Romeo and Juliet was directed by Franco Zeffirelli, I think 1969 or 1970, and it starred Juliet was oh God, what is her name? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. I'll think of it. Let's see, Leonard Whiting, Olivia Hussey. And I had the biggest crush on Olivia Hussey when I was a kid. She was probably 15 years older than I. So we did a Shakespeare Pinky and the Brain thing, and Carrie played Romeo, and Olivia played Juliet. And Carrie and Mo and I hit it right off. And since then, we've been fast friends. And boy, I'll tell you what, Carrie and hundreds of others, millions probably, took the impossibly sad circumstance with Rob Reiner and his wife.
Yeah.
That movie put him in a position to become Carrie Elwes. And when we would discuss things that were so important to us, and who, by the way, he is a delightful guy, the salt of the earth, zero pretense, impossibly handsome. But the first thing he does when Mo and he and I are out to dinner, it's like all the good people. Inevitably, the young women and the young men often are going, oh my God, Wesley's at table 6. Okay. So people come out and they make a nice little fuss. It's never over the top. The first thing Carrie does is say, oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. And that perfect little, oh, thank you very much. Come on, shut up. And the first thing he does, he says, by the way, do you watch animation? You like cartoons? Oh, I love them. You ever watch Pinky? Pinky, are you kidding me? Pinky and the Brain. They're right here. And so all of a sudden, we're the focus because he is a dear friend, but he knows how he grew up with people who could behave any way they want, and they threw a little light sunshine his way. Make a fuss over him.
I remember when I was lucky enough to meet him. We're standing in line, and we're about to get the book autographed. And my son, who's maybe 10 at the time, maybe a little bit older, he goes, "Can I ask him a question?" And I'm like, I have no question, so go ahead, go for it. Let's see what you ask.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten that I had shown him Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh.
So he gets up there and he asked him a question about, what his favorite thing about filming Robin Hood Men in Tights was. And they had asked everybody in line, please, there's a lot of people here to meet Carrie, try to move it along smoothly. Sure. Well, these two proceeded to spend the next 5 minutes talking about Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah.
And I just remember the handlers all looking at me. I'm like, you stop him.
Right.
Are you going to tell him no?
Well,
you tell the 10-year-old he can't talk. Yeah,
exactly.
No, I'm talking about Carrie Elwes. I'm like, tell Carrie Elwes he can't sit and do what he wants.
You tell the big 10-year-old he can't talk.
That's exactly right. Because Carrie is like us. He's a terrific actor, a wonderful person, fantastic wife, beautiful daughter who's also just lovely and so sweet. But I, in this remarkably privileged place in which I find myself, I have this wonderful, one of the few profoundly wonderful things about getting older and not taking a dirt nap right away is that I now have like a 50-year frame of reference in Hollywood now. And I've grown up with people whom I surrounded myself when I first moved here, who scared the daylights out of me with their talent. Phil Hartman and Paul Rubens and Lorraine Newman, Cassandra Peterson. I got to stop dropping names. Bob De Niro told me that. But
that was one of the slickest things I've ever heard. That was good.
That
was great.
And to be fair, credit where it's due, Dave Coulier is another Detroiter and a dear friend of mine. And I said, I'm going to steal that. Go ahead, just give me credit. So fair enough. But
he just dropped a name while explaining how to drop names.
Isn't it great?
Yes,
kind of jumping the shark, isn't it? Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're going to be dropping Henry Winkler's name because of dropping the shark. I mean, come on.
There's another one. I don't know. I don't hang with him like Carrie, but he used to direct TV commercials as he was done with Happy Days, and I would go in and read for him. He was just a prince. Well, now I see him at conventions all the time. I mean, come on, just absolutely a doll. Everybody gets a two-handed handshake. Everybody gets looked at right in the eyeballs and never turn away. Total pro. And so now I have these friends I can call on the phone who are Oscar winners and Tony winners and Emmy winners, and they're all delightful. Steven Spielberg, I've worked with him on 6 projects now, and every time I have the pleasure of seeing him, now I'm sure somebody says, by the way, as a reminder, this is the guy who, Pinky. You could fool me, and it's not just me. Rob, it's so great to see you, man. I thank you for. Oh, come on. So when you get a chance to see how people who could behave any of the way they want, and they choose to be like Rob Reiner, they choose to be like his dad. Carl Reiner cast me in a pilot at Nickelodeon, never went anywhere, in which he hired me to be a Filipino ventriloquist. What? And give up show business? You could hold a gun to my head and say, do a Philip. I'd have to go back and, okay. The point is, I got the gig, and we went into the next week to go read the script together with the whole cast of whom he cast, and the cast whom he picked. And so he was there. Rob, thank you so much for, boy, are we glad to have you. None of it was necessary, but it made me feel like a freaking big shot. And I would have jumped through fire to do a good job. That's exactly why that's important. And then, so he's talking to me. And if you guys are Mr. Reiner, he looks over my shoulder and says, oh, by the way, Rob, have you ever met Dick and Rosemarie? It was Dick Van Dyke and Rosemarie from his show, from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Jeez. Wow.
So I was 6 or 8 when those shows first ran. And so all of us grew up with Dick Van Dyke, who just turned 100. And
he's still going.
Still
not going. Like we want him to, but the man refuses to die.
Yeah. He says it himself. He said, wouldn't it be something if I kicked at like 11:59 on the day before my birthday? Wouldn't that be great?
I saw him dancing recently. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Kristen, probably 10 years ago when he was 90, maybe more, I don't know, 80? Shit, 30 years ago, he'd have been my age. And my son happened to be at the Starbucks in Malibu. Mr. Van Dyke lives over there. And he took a little video. He said, hey, Dad, I think that this is the guy you've talked about. I mean, we've seen him in Mary Poppins and Mr. Van. And it was beautiful because obviously everybody recognizes him. And talk about a staple in anyone's childhood who's been around since, 1960. Somebody said, Mr. Van Dyke, do you still know the word supercalifragilistic? He just did it because he could. And all it did was change everyone in that Starbucks, made their day, but they will never, ever forget that 30 seconds or whatever it was.
And they will always remember Dick Van Dyke as being a great person.
Always. You're both correct. Always. And it is.
What do you think yours is, though? Because like he's got that. Yeah. Like you said, Mel Blanc had that "What's Up, Doc." Mandy Patinkin's got. My name is Inigo Montoya.
He can do anything.
What's your My name is Inigo Montoya? What do you think it is?
Let's see.
What do people yell out and ask you to yell at you or?
You're not going to. Well, you will believe this because you guys are in involved with pop culture, and you have kids. The Carl Wieser is a meme machine. I don't know why. There was one episode of, I don't know, we did 100, I don't know, and a movie. One episode in which Carl is with the gang, and there's an impresario who's coming in to fool these kids into being rock stars and all this stuff. And this particular impresario was played by Billy West. And so I ask this character who's eating a croissant, I say, "Are you going to finish that croissant?" And Billy says, "No, eat your heart out, kid." Boom. And that's it. That's it. But if you Google Carl Wieser croissant, it's crazy. And so everywhere I go, there are people who will, I swear to God, who will stand in line to get me to record, "Hey, Kip, are you going to finish that croissant?" And then they're out of their minds and they go home and they're going to have a couple of pops and play it for all their friends. So that is the weirdest one. It's always about Carl, or they want to hear me say, "I have a crush on Jimmy's mom." And of course, I'm from Michigan, and I threw that really hard Chicago, Wisconsin, mom, Jimmy's mom. So everybody really goes for that Motown sound. Can you say, "Hey, dude, can you say Jimmy's mom?" "Yeah, Jimmy's mom." Oh my God, he said it. I don't know. As Steve Martin said, "I get paid for doing that." I don't know. So that's the one right now that people, especially young folks, love Carl. The other thing that I get often, especially, every time we talk about Animania, the bar from the beginning was so high. I'm a singer before anything, and that was a big reason I happened to score that gig. But I know you guys got to be home before Christmas of 29, but I'll try to truncate this a little bit because I could talk.
We'll take as long as you want. As long as you're willing to talk to us, we'll talk.
Whatever amount of time you're about to gift us, we will sit here and turn to skeletons while we listen to it.
That'd be funny. Okay, hey guys, thanks for having me. I got to go. It's my 87th birthday, guys.
Lower jaw just falls off.
Yeah, exactly. The cobwebs.
Little spider crawls out.
Yeah, out of the eyeball. I love these opportunities where you guys are not only so gracious, but you really are like me. I mean, I'm a total nerd with all this stuff, and the people with whom I've gotten to work. But as I said earlier, you move to Hollywood, and I grew up with all these wonderful people who were terrifyingly inspirational, and ultimately I found my way. But when I got hired for Animaniacs, we knew the show was going to be very music heavy. And so I got my first little cassette. For you younger people out there, that's CASSETTE. Google it. I got my cassette with a demo of the song I was supposed to, my first song, which was United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti. That song is utterly iconic. So I remember sitting in bed with my headphones on and singing this thing, and my wife said, "What are you doing?" And I had the music. I said, "Check this out." And I just sang it. She said, "Oh my God, who wrote that?" And I said, "I don't know. It doesn't have his name on it." "Well, I'll find out." Okay. I tell you that because right from the beginning, song-wise, that bar is way up there. Way up. Okay. First one I get to sing. So then I met the composer, whose name is Randy Rogel. And I love these opportunities to tell this story because it really shows us how when you decide, like we said, you put yourself in a position, either it's something where you go to the right school, or you become an elite athlete, or you go to school for 2 or 3 different degrees because you really want to be very focused, but you never know with whom you're going to surround yourself. You just know that, God, they blow your mind. Okay, so I met Randy, and after I got to know him, he's a West Point graduate. So right away, he's a smart kid. You have to have a congressional sort of letter from your congressman to be admitted to one of the military academies. Mm-hmm. So then he gets done, graduates with his degree in engineering, has to serve the country for chose to, for 5 years. And he was one of the instrumental people who graduated, I think, as a first lieutenant. But anyway, he ended up being a captain, and he was in Italy working with the missile silos in Italy. One of those, I could tell you, but I have to kill you gigs, right? Okay, gets done with that. Says, there's something else I really wanted to study. Now he goes to Boston University, gets another one. Then he says, okay, now I'm 30-ish and I want to make some money, single, gets a job with Procter & Gamble in Seattle. But what we don't know is that his background, he grew up in San Diego, which is the home of a really well-known local theater called the Old Globe, like Shakespeare, but it's a marvelous place to learn. People come through are all great actors, singers. So Randy was there from the time he's like in grade school, singing, dancing, writing, learning how to play piano, all that. And so his discipline, the stuff that got him into West Point, is what he was doing already because it lit him up. He was taking piano lessons and all this other stuff. And so he's making, I don't know, a couple hundred working for Procter & Gamble in 1990. And he says, Hollywood's right down the road. If I don't give this a shot now, who knows? Maybe I'll get married, have kids. I'm going to give it a shot. I got a bunch of stuff I've written, music, scripts, whatever. Couch surfs, bangs on a bunch of doors, finally gets a job at Warner Brothers, his first gig, writing for Batman, the animated series, which for many people your age, and my son's age, who's 41, whatever, my son loves Batman. I mean, all the permutations, loves Chris Nolan, loves Chris Bale, all that stuff. But for him, if you were on a desert island, et cetera, it would be Mark and Kevin. Yep. That would be Batman. Uh-huh. Understandably, a 20-year animated version, which was spectacular. And
they even crossed Batman over into video games and animated movies too.
Oh my God. Okay, so first season he's writing on Batman, boom, wins an Emmy. Now, if you know his background, well, it's not that surprising because he's that disciplined, and he's a West Point graduate. Okay, so he hears across the hall about this new show being made from the ground up, clean sheet of paper by the same people who did Tiny Toon Adventures, Tom Ruegger, Steven Spielberg, and Gene McCurdy, who was at that time the president of Warner Brothers Animation. Oh my God, who would have thunk? I'm writing on Batman. I just won an Emmy, and right across the hall, I can write songs for that stuff. I'm going to go knock on that door. Oh, what's your name? It's Rodney, right? No, it's Randy. Yeah, okay. You won an Emmy. Congratulations. But you know what? We're good. Steven's got people. Tom's got people. We're covered. You go back writing that, and what? You need more money? No, I mean, yes, but can't I do both? You know what? We're good. It took him a month. Not every day, but he'd say, look, can I just write something, get to know a little bit about the show and write something on spec, and you guys listen to it and see what you think? All right. Just go ahead. If we like it, we might give you a couple of episodes, but whatever. Sure. Go ahead, Rodney. And so Randy comes back after a weekend, and that song was his audition piece.
Wow.
Jeez.
He knocked that out because he had a globe that was given to his son by his mom, his son's grandmother. And Randy was helping his son, Ryan, learn world geography. It's like love, guys. Inspiration comes from the most unexpected places. And when it is that organic, but it goes into the head of somebody with that talent or that ability to be fearless and just try shit, that's what happens. And the next day, obviously, they said, oh, okay. The next day, Randy had a spinet rolled into his office with a note from Steven saying, hey, Randy, here's the piano. Knock yourself out. And Randy now has so many Emmys just from Animaniacs that he dresses them in Barbie clothes. You know, it's amazing. And so now, in fact, tomorrow, I'm running up with Randy and Maurice LaMarche, and the three of us take Animaniacs in concert and do it around the country. And in this case, we're doing 2 shows in Southern Ontario, Guelph and Kitchener. I don't know, but it's so much fun. And the only reason that it's Randy Rogel. How about that?
Okay, his ears were burning.
Screw you. I'm talking to these guys. But
his ears were burning.
But you see my point. And so that happened with all aspects of Animaniacs, because they already had people whom they said, oh, these guys are great. They won Emmys for blah, blah, blah. They want to work on this show. And Randy, now we go and take our show. It's 2 hours, little 10-minute intermission. And we do probably 30 songs, 25 songs, 3 or 4 of which never made it to the show. And we demonstrate the song you guys ended up hearing growing up. But here was the one that was turned down, and A.B. them. Toss up. They're great. But Randy and people who do that at that level, writers or whatever, on sitcoms or whatever, they're staff writers. So you don't wait for the muse to tickle your creative bone. You know, the boss comes in and Kip says, yeah, Rob, that's funny and clever, but that's not what I had in mind. I had more in mind this. So, dude, we got to ship this in 10 days. So I need that song next week. Okay, thanks. And that's it. And then you hear what Randy wrote that you ended up hearing, and he just does it like that. So, and he wrote stuff especially for the live show that we do for Maurice and me, because he wrote a song for Brain where he goes, take over the world. That's how it will be. Everyone knows that humans are dumb, whatever. And it's just spectacular, but mainly to have the best seat in the house and look out at the crowd while Randy's explaining, how we do a bit in the show where there was a great song, so many of them. This one is called I'm Cute, about Dot, because she sang, I'm cute. Yes, it's true. I really can't help it. But what can you do when you're cute? It just shows from these sweet darling eyes and this cute little nose and a pretty pink dress. That's adorable. Yes. And when they see my dimples, then everyone says, oh, shoot. Isn't she cute? Okay. There's a line in that says, I'm sweet and I'm cuddly and small, just like Dudley, but more. It's a chore. Okay. So Randy plays a few bars and says, now that's how it sounds in my office when I'm working on it. And after it's animated and the full orchestra, because it's Steven Spielberg, a full 35-piece orchestra for every half hour. We even use the same piano at Warner Brothers that Carl Stalling used for all of the Looney Tunes stuff. Unbelievable. And you only get that if it's a big movie, or Steven Spielberg is the boss and it's a cartoon show, but he wants to do it just like Looney Tunes because it will pay off in the long run. So it's outrageous. So then Randy says, after all that's done, it takes about 9 months, blah, 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 animated. And then what sounds like this, ba, 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 on the piano, now looks and sounds like this. And then we step off and the cartoon plays. But it's incredible to watch the audience in utter awe, because every note and every lyric that comes from that stage, I'm good at my job, but I don't draw them and I don't write them. That guy is the real freaking deal, and everything you hear coming from the stage is from that guy's head. And what's really cool, the mean age of the audience who comes to see us is about 35 to 50. It's fantastic.
That doesn't surprise me.
It is great.
Not at all.
And they often, like we talked about, bring their kids or their grandkids, but it really speaks to what you both have been so astutely pointed out earlier, is that when it's done right, it is utterly timeless. And there will probably someday, when Randy and I have moved off to the, that great recording studio in the sky, somebody will do a Animaniacs tribute thing where they know all the songs and they play and they go around, they do things. Who knows? But it's
and you guys have influenced so much as well. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched it or seen it, but I honestly believe that Phineas and Ferb couldn't exist without Animaniacs. And if there's so much similarities when you watch them.
Exactly. And if you talk to Swampy what's his partner's name? Dan Povenmire.
I think
Dan Povenmire. Yeah. Another great thing that this is why I love these opportunities that you boys are giving me, because I've been around so long. I have an anecdote for just about everything. Check this out. Danny and Swampy Marsh, God bless them, kicked around Phineas and Ferb and even pitched it at Disney over a period of 12 years before they bought it, and it became. How many times do you think those guys thought, "Are you fucking kidding me? Do they have any idea how good this is? Look, we got to believe in this." 12 years, and obviously they were correct. But when they were on my podcast, I mean, all I did was sing their praises, and they, just like you, Tristan, they said, "Well, you're preaching to the choir, man," because they were all inspired by that stuff. Anybody who culturally, just a month ago on the opening sequence of SNL, Colin Jost was doing a great job of taking the piss out of Pete Hegseth. And somebody asked, remember that?
Oh, that was brilliant.
The question is something about, well, where do you think this is going to spread to? I mean, if you go to war here, something like that. Well, it could go to the United States or Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Animaniacs.
Yes. Yes.
That means that, without doubt, I think I'm safe to say, if you go to the writer's room and this weird old dude walks in, and says, "Hi, I'm Yakko," or, "Hey, God, it's me, Pinky," Narf, they would shit. And it's wonderful, because it doesn't matter who you are, your station, how much you make, how much you don't make. Joy and the power therein is universal, or Warner Brothers. And it how to do that.
It's paramount. It's definitely paramount, no matter what it is.
Paramount to both of it. We're fair enough. You see my point. Those writers grew up with that, and The Simpsons and Phineas and whatever. So it meant enough of a deal that they put it in the opening sequence.
We're still going up with The Simpsons. They won't go away.
Isn't that something? and Stephen Colbert, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, had an opening sequence where they called them MAGA Maniacs, and they wrote, "It's time for MAGA Maniacs," and immediately people said, "Rob, have you seen that?" The point is that it's right there. It's right in the.
It's ingrained in us.
Yeah. I mean, years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I sung the national anthem at Dodger Stadium. Huge honor. But as I'm walking through the dugout to go sit down and watch the game, I get a tap on my shoulder. I'm a big sports nut. I get a tap on my shoulder. And it was Justin Turner, who at that time was the third baseman for the Dodgers, with whom they won a series in 2020. Kid has got this picture. He says, "Are you really Raphael?" I said, "Yeah, man, I am." So I signed a picture on the field for Justin Turner. Guy makes what, $20 million a year playing ball? Doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with that power of joy and comfort and safety even that we all have. And it's like Rosebud, on your dying breath, there will be people who will say, no, because it means something to them. It's absolutely astonishing, you guys. And I promise you, listeners out there, the fact that I ramble, please understand that this exuberance and this joy is utterly authentic, utterly, because I've seen how much it means to you. And we got nothing without people who want to watch. So this is a remarkable experience to be able to share.
My whole life,
I want to.
I
Go ahead.
quite often, if somebody says something dirty, I'll be like, "Good night, everybody."
Good night, everybody.
And I don't even think about why I say it. It just comes out because it's just in there.
Well, and that is something that Groucho Marx used to say in the 50s and 60s on a show. He had a show called You Bet Your Life. And, he was always very suggestive. And when I was auditioning, they said, could you throw like a little vibe of Groucho? Sure. I know all of that. And he would say something suggestive and he would look in the camera and go, good night, everybody. And so they put that and made it sound like it came out of Yakko. Well, that was another thing that is part of the culture then. And it now does that. In fact, it was a perfect example of what we got away with. So that, as Stephen said, kids will dig it when Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, when we lampoon Barney and we drop an anvil on Barney, when he's going, oh, dum diddly, dum dum, and we lampoon Barney, the kids, everybody will get a kick out of that. But when we do an episode where Yakko is being Hercule Poirot, a la Agatha Christie, and he's a detective with the hat on and everything, and he's searching for clues. And
my favorite lines.
Here you go. And he says, here we are, and we're searching for Prince. And Dot walks in, and she's holding a caricature of Prince, the brilliant musician. And Yakko says, no, fingerprints. And they cut back to Dot, and she looks at Prince, and she says, I don't think so, and throws him out the window. Now, come on. It was 1992. That's still pretty risque. Unless you say
the best part is that's the type of stuff why the show has the legs that it does. We didn't get that when we were kids. Now that's one of the funniest damn things ever because you're like, how the hell did that make it in there?
And Tress, the most prolific female voice talent in the history of Hollywood. That woman, you look up Tress MacNeille's IMDb, and it's like the Manhattan phone book. And I knew her since she was a cocktail waitress. Now, I mean, she's like my sister. And she still has my kid's baby picture on her refrigerator. But she's the crazy cat lady on Simpsons. She's Bender's mom on Futurama. She's Principal Skinner's mom. I mean, come on, you're just stupid, talented. But wow. I remember going through that, and we looked at each other, and she said, there's no way. And I said, probably not, but boy, God bless him for trying, huh? And she said, that I got to tell you, that's pretty clever, pretty gnarly, but that's never going to. A year later, I called her up. I said, I'm watching that episode. It got through. She said, you're out of your mind. I said, nope. And all these years later, the number of people your age who say, I can't, Mr. Paulsen, I got 2 words for you, fingerprints. And then both of us just start laughing because it's a fantastic example of precisely what Stephen was talking about. And
Kip and I were talking about this earlier.
Well, and the kids are sitting there watching that, and they're seeing the colors and the goofy looking characters, and everybody's laughing, and they're catching the music and the vibe, but they're not getting the joke. They're not getting the words of the joke. But their parents that are sitting next to them are dying laughing.
Yes. And it's funny for the kids because the kids see Dot throw this guy out the window, and then they do a little, Prince was great. Your mom and I love Prince, whatever. And By the way, another quick anecdote. The gentleman who's the voice of Barney for all those years, for all of you out there who are Barney fans, forgive me, Bob West, exactly whom you would want to be Barney. Just a giant heart, utterly sweet, not contrived. He's just a good, sweet man. And he loves that episode. He also loves it, the one where we beat up Barney, because, he's a grown up and he understands. I told him once, I said, Bobby, I love you, man. But I got to tell you, my kid was not a big Barney guy. No problem, and honestly, if I'd had to watch Barney with my kid and Teletubbies, I'd have put a gun in my mouth, man. I couldn't do that. I said, well, what did your son like to watch? I said, Muppets. And I could watch Muppets all day. I understand.
I was stuck watching Barney and Teletubbies with my little brother. That's why I got him into pro wrestling.
Yay. Great. Even a man in a thong is better than that. Okay. So, and trust me, I got no problem telling people. I'm not afraid to hug a man. And so, but Bob says, I don't have kids. I totally get it. And I understand, for those of you whom I may have offended about Teletubbies, okay, I understand as a reasonably intelligent parent why it works. I understand the rudimentary nature of repetition and things that are very safe, and I get it. And Barney, everybody wants to hug Barney. Okay. But I like we're talking about watching Looney Tunes with your parents. They wanted to watch it. Hey kids, let's watch. There was a Johnny Quest was a primetime show when I was a kid. Hey pal, let's go watch Johnny Quest. He loved it. Or the Flintstones. It was a primetime show. So I got to watch that stuff with my parents. Fortunately, my kid said, can we watch the Muppets? Yeah, all day. You want to watch the Muppet Show videotapes, VHSs? All day, So anyway, forgive me if I've offended any Barney or Teletubby fans out there.
Didn't you have a spot on Fraggle Rock as well?
I did. Well, we did the animated version of Fraggle Rock, which, with all due respect to those lovely people,
nothing,
not even close to
not even on the same level.
No, and we all knew it, but of course we were grateful to get a job, and it was on NBC Saturday morning, and it was a blast. We were getting ready to do a second season, and your subsequent memory of the show was shared by Brandon Tartikoff, who was the head of the network at that time. It was shared by his little girl who said, I hate this. So that was that. So she'd already broken the glass ceiling at 10 years old, man. But no, I listened. I, as I mentioned earlier, you never know. You never know. You guys know this business. Hollywood, New York, Chicago is littered with shows that everybody said, oh man, I'm in. I'm going to be an investor in this play. Or yeah, I'm going to back this band or whatever. Crickets. You just never know. And that is why I am so aware of how impossibly fortunate I've been to work on stuff that I'd had to work to screw up. And you just never know. Ninja Turtles, we still we just shake our heads. And Kevin Eastman, one of the two creators whom I see probably 4 or 5 times a year, he and his lovely wife, Courtney, and inevitably, you guys, the subject gets around, Jesus Christ, Kev, did you guys have any idea? And Robbie, I'm so grateful. And the number of the amount of good that has come from Ninja Turtles, and we've gotten to see it. Kevin, Peter, his partner, all of us who were fortunate enough to work on it, as a result of that, of when that exploded in like 1988, 89, yeah. I had the privilege of speaking with on the phone and going to children's hospital wards. And of course, I know it's not for everybody, but it's for me. And having a child who was fine I couldn't say yes fast enough. And as I said, it's not just yours truly, but holy smoke, you guys. When you go in there and you see a little boy or a little girl who's 5 with a glioblastoma, the same brain cancer that killed John McCain, and mom and dad know that the first child they've had is not going to make it out of there unless it's in a bag. And this young guy has to talk to Raphael. Shut the front door. Are you kidding me? So the privilege of seeing, I'm the mouthpiece and the conduit, and I'm possibly proud to be such, but I didn't create this. I didn't write the words. I improvised, but I get to go back to these wonderful artists and creators and say, you guys, you girls, you have no idea how important your work is. This just isn't about us making a nice check or being, can you sing the countries of the world as a drinking game? It's not about that. These children are so wrapped up in the one thing that brings them peace and joy, whether it's, foster system, dying, whatever it is. And even arguably, more importantly, because ultimately the kids are going to be gone. But even more importantly, the parents have a memory or have 5 minutes in which their kid is not going, Mommy, I don't want to do this again. Oh my God. Oh my God. And the same when I meet someone who's in their 60s and they bring their 30-year-old autistic daughter who will always need some help, and stims quite a bit, and they've had to deal with people kind of looking sideways. Mommy, why is that girl, stuff that happens in public. The children don't know. But when they come to a convention, whether it's C2E2 or New York or Comic-Con in San Diego, whatever it is, they're utterly, unequivocally accepted. And no one looks sideways at them. Then mom and dad will say, hey, Rob, that's our daughter. That's our daughter, Denise, and she's 30. And I see whom they're speaking of. And she's standing in line. So just bring her to the front of the line. No. She's learning. And but we have to tell you before you meet her, we watched Animaniacs as a family. We have 3 other kids. And we all watched it together, including Denise. And she was nonverbal till she was 8. And we kept watching, and she kept wanting to see Yakko's World. And I'll be damned, Rob, she started learning the names of the countries and singing, finding ways to form United States, Canada, Burundi, whatever it was. And she learned to sing a good chunk of the song. So we took her to a speech pathologist, and she can carry on a cogent conversation. She might not always look at you in the eye, but she knows what you're asking, and she can respond. Now, these people must go to bed at night thinking, we got 4 kids. We don't have a trust fund. What's going to happen with this sweet girl when she's 52 and she can't buy a Slurpee on her own? And by that time, what if we can't expect our kids necessarily to stick around? Who knows? What are we going to do, right? But for 10 minutes, nobody looks sideways at her while she's here. And, you tell those parents it's just a cartoon. I mean, how do you contextualize that compliment? It's beyond my comprehension. But as a result of you guys, as I said earlier, and these opportunities, we get to see things like that Mel and June Foray and Dawes Butler and Don Messick and these wonderful actors, Penny Singleton, all of them never got to see. When people found out who they were, like with me, they light up. But I get to see children in hospitals. I get to see, I talk to them on the phone or at the events or whatever. And it made me a better dad. You come home and you see this absolutely diabolical circumstance in which this sweet I live in LA, you live in Chicago. Every day, right now, somebody's getting a phone call about their 5-year-old or their 30-year-old wife who was just diagnosed with, uterine cancer. Come on, and I go home from these events when I was younger and my kid was a little guy, spills chocolate on a white couch. So what? If we don't get it out, it's a wonderful memory that my son was laughing so hard that he spilled his milkshake on the couch. And so I love, again, I can't thank you enough for giving me these opportunities, because it allows me to share with your significant audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All of you, I hope, have healthy children, but to the extent you had kids who struggled and some of these shows made a difference to them in their struggle, that's not about my paycheck. I've been rich and I've been poor. I love being rich much more. But none of that, it's
you're far richer. You're far richer here.
Yes.
Inside.
Absolutely.
Than you will ever be in your bank account.
Oh, dude. All of you. I mean, as I say, once I get rolling down this road, I could give chapter and verse of this child and that child, or this grown up or that grown up, or this man who lost his son but said, "Can you please sign this turtle poster? My son took his own life." This happened in December. We were at a Toys for Tots event in Salt Lake City, and there was a man who came up later because he didn't want to draw attention to himself. I just want to tell you that my son took his life 6 months ago, and Ninja Turtles. I can't tell you how many times we shared Ninja Turtles, but he struggled. His mom and I did our best, and I just wondered if you could sign this and make it out to him. It would mean a lot. I mean, what do you say? Gosh, I don't know. I'm going to catch a plane. Are you kidding me? I mean,
there's always a later flight.
Well, another great anecdote, a sports one this time. I grew up playing hockey, and as a result of being a hockey player and a Ninja Turtle, I got involved with a team of actors out here in LA years ago, and we'd go around playing the old timers of National Hockey League teams to raise money for children's charities. So I could skate backwards. So they said, "Hey man, you want to be in our team? You're also a Ninja Turtle." So of course I had a ball, and I got to play with Stan Mikita. I got to play with Keith Magnuson. I got to play with Bobby. I got to play with Dennis. I mean, all these Tony Esposito, all these Chicago guys, right? But one year we played the Red Wing Old Timers at Joe Louis Arena, and Gordy was there, my hero. My email address has Red Wing in it, right? So he's my guy. And so, and we had, a lot of recognition. I wasn't the draw. The draw were Jason Priestley and Michael J. Fox and Matt Frewer and Matt Perry, God rest his soul. All those guys were Dave Coulier, because of Full House, another good hockey player. And I remember we're getting ready to go do like a media thing. We're all going to put on our stuff and have a little scrimmage. And I'm putting my stuff on, sitting next to Dave, and Mr. Hockey walks in to the locker room. And he says, "Which one of you assholes is the Ninja Turtle?" And Coulier looks at me, he said, "This guy, Mr. Howe, says, my grandkids love that goddamn show." So we just, he and Mrs. Howe treated me and my parents like the most, like their family. And they did that with a lot of people. And the reason that Gordy is important in the context of what you said, I'll get another plane. Twice I was with Gordy at autograph events, and Gordy had 8, 9 people left in his line, and he did what we're doing or what I'm doing. You guys are being very gracious, but he liked to talk because he wanted to hear what his career meant to these people. He he just would look at me and go, "Can you believe this, Robbie?" He was probably 63 at the time. So twice I saw him say to the person who was standing in line with whom he was speaking, "Can you hang on just a second, son? I'll be right back." And he would step up and move away with the person who was saying, "Mr. Howe, I'm so sorry, but we got to get to the airport." And he very gently said, "I'll get another plane. I have 6 people who waited in line while I spoke to everybody. I'm not going to send them home. So we'll be fine. If I have to stay another night, I'll take care of it." Nobody went away without saying, "Wow, Mr. Hockey, Gordy is the real deal," right? And one event in Vancouver, it was a softball game in the summer, Mr. and Mrs. Howe invited me to come up and play. And so Gordy says, "Hey, youngster, come over and sit to me. We'll sign stuff together." Well, he signed everything that wasn't nailed down. And of course, I just sat there reveling, being within the proximity of the great man, and thrilled that he would say, "Come on over here, Robbie." So I'm signing. Young man, after being in line for an hour, about my age at the time, 33, 32, walked up and had a puck, and Mr. Howe signed it up there in Vancouver and said, "Thank you so much, Mr. Howe. Your hand must be getting tired." Fair enough. At this stage of his life, Gordy probably had signed literally, I don't know, 1 million autographs. By the way, for every one of the hockey players I mentioned too. Phil Esposito. I was going to get Gordy's stick when I came in with the Blackhawks, stuff like that. They loved Gordy, right? And Gordy, in 5 seconds, boys, taught me everything I needed to know about how to behave if I'm fortunate enough to generate anything connected with celebrity, where people make a fuss over you for doing something you do for free. He put down his Sharpie, looked at that young man and said, "It's my pleasure, son. I've worked too hard for this privilege." Are you kidding me? Gordy, how? I've been at lunch with Gordy and Colleen in Santa Monica on a Sunday. And by the time our 2-hour lunch is over, half a dozen people in Santa Monica. "Are you Mr. Howe?" "I am. If you don't mind, while I finish, I'll be happy to sign something for you outside. I just like to." "Oh my God. Oh, sure. Whatever." And this guy says he's still a Saskatchewan farm boy. It was his signing bonus for all you sports geeks out there in 1948 was a Red Wings jacket. And he never earned more than a couple hundred, I think, maybe, playing for the Red Wings. He started to make money when he, joined the WHA and played with his kids and all that. But he never made any big money as a hockey player until he got older. Certainly. And there was never any umbrage like those kids today. None of that. Those kids, Iserman, in my case, Shanahan, they referred to him as GFH, Gordy freaking Howe. And
we had Bobby Hull, and he was the same way with all the women in his line. Every girl got a hug or a kiss or a squeeze on the butt. Not one went without.
And boy, let me tell you, I played golf in a foursome.
Different time.
Oh man, I played in a foursome with Bobby Hall and Stan Mikita, who was a fantastic golfer. I mean, it was incredible. And by the time, I don't know, the 5th hole, Bobby was on his 6th beer, and he would talk to. He got pretty raw. He'd say things like, "Yeah, well, I shouldn't. He's been divorced a bunch, and he had his own issues with that. But he'd say, well, I guess I shouldn't be too upset with Brett's mom. I mean, she divorced me. And she, let's see, what did she say? I shouldn't be too upset with Brett's mom with the divorce. I mean, she did turn me into a millionaire. Of course, when I married her, I was worth 10 million. And, stuff like that. He's kind of like Sam Kinison in that regard, But what a
do you guys ever do that where like you get together and like you say weird or inappropriate things in your famous voices just to pop each other?
All the time.
I got to imagine you do.
Oh, dude. Listen, when you're in a room with John DiMaggio and Billy West and Frank Welker and all these guys who are impossibly sharp. They know every cultural reference from the time they were. Frank Welker is 79. He's still Freddy on Scooby-Doo since 1969. And he's been, I'll tell you what's really cool. I directed there was a version of Ninja Turtles on Nickelodeon after the one in which I was Donatello that they asked me to be the voice director on. Our buddy Tom Kenny directs SpongeBob now, and they said, "Well, Tom, you're the guy who's got the most turtle DNA in Hollywood. Would you be the?" Sure, I had a ball. And so one day the producer said, "Hey, we're bringing in Peter Cullen and Frank Welker to the guys on who don't know this, who don't know what Tristan and Kip know. Peter Cullen is Optimus Prime. And Frank is Megatron. And so, but we're not going to tell until the day of the recording. We're not going to tell the writing staff. We're just going to ask them to come downstairs and be in the recording session. Might want to go over the script." So when they got down there and saw that Frank they recognized them right away. I said, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Can we get pictures, all that stuff?" So Frank and Peter go into the booth, and I said, "Peter, when I call upon you to do a mic check, just, you know what to do." So he said, "I got you." Now, Peter now is 85. And at this time, he was probably, I don't know, 77. Doesn't matter. So we get in there doing it. "Peter, can you give me a mic check, please?" "Yeah." "Autobots, roll out." These kids, I mean, fell on the floor in the fetal position, didn't know what to do. And I'm not a big Transformer. I mean, did the original cartoon, but I don't collect or any of that. I love Peter and Frank, but I'm telling you, it gave me chills because when I saw those guys, I mean, they lost it in the most glorious way. They were literally 8-year-olds, and they were just flipping out. Same thing with Kevin.
One of those beautiful things,
isn't it?
Just
beautiful?
Triggers something that you can't help but be like giddy. You know,
it turns you into a preteen pile of goo just to hear those voices.
And
because, I mean, first of all, Peter Cullen has probably one of the most iconic voices in history.
No kidding.
But to be sitting there, not paying attention to what's going on, and suddenly hear Autobots transform and roll out, and you just what? Like when you sat here and narfed the first time, you saw the look on my face. You saw what that did to me.
When you sat here and narfed. Hey, at my age, narfing could, suggest something completely that we don't want to talk about, and I need to have to change the sheets. Hey, Rob, did you narf?
What happens in the privacy of your bedroom, Rob, is
yeah, you're right. Okay. Here we go again. Just piqued my another memory.
Oh, that just made me think of something so bad.
You're gonna love this one. Okay. You're right.
If our brains are linked right now, I'm going to lose it.
Not my business.
Don't
Rob,
do it.
In your bedroom.
Don't do it.
Okay, fair enough. Check this out. For those of you who are big Disney fans, did you guys know that Wayne Allwine and Russi Taylor, Mickey and Minnie, respectively, were married in real life?
I did know that, actually. My mother-in-law or ex-mother-in-law was huge on stuff like that.
Isn't that great? Well, first of all, just because of what that means in the context of these seminal characters and the franchise characters for Disney, having Mickey and Minnie, two precious characters, be married is in itself just really adorable. And it was a second marriage for them both, and they adored one another, and they worked together a lot, obviously, and they would work separately, but they'd always go into work. I mean, they lived for one another. They're both gone now. But years ago, I worked on a show with Russi, who was Minnie, called Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And I was the voice of a character called Toodles. It was this little fix-it critter that bopped around going, "Toodles is, oh, Toodle," whatever. And so I was working with Russi. She's doing Minnie and blah, blah, blah. And in this particular studio complex, in which Wayne, Mickey, was in another studio doing Mickey stuff. So he walks in, he's done early, he walks in, and Brucey sees him through the glass. Oh, there's my handsome prince. Oh my God, I love you, sweetie. And I said, honey, Jesus Christ, get a room, but because they're adorable. But it was authentic. And it never lost on us that it's Mickey and Minnie. My God, it's wonderful. You don't have a soul if that doesn't make you,
It does. That hits you right there,
Right? Okay, but I'm like you guys. I'm like you guys. I can't miss an opportunity to just go if I can, because they loved me and I loved them. We were friends. So Lucy and I got done, and we walked into the the control room and sat on the couch, and she sat on her husband's lap, and they're just adorable. And I said, can I tell you both, I know you hear this all the time, but everyone wants a relationship like yours where you cannot stand to be away from one another. That's fantastic. But I have to say, as much as I love both of you, I'd pay a lot of money to hear what that bedroom sounds like.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. So I started thinking, oh, right there, bike like a dog and call me Pluto. Boy, talk about the happiest place on earth, kids. Ooh. And of course,
somebody's getting the mouse couture tonight.
That's right. You're gonna get lucky tonight, honey.
Oh my gosh.
But they, of course, were absolutely on board. So that's a long roundabout way of saying, oh yeah, all the time, Tristan. And at the end of every, you've never lived until you've heard Mickey or Minnie. Look, can I do that again? And at the end of so many shows on which I worked, at the end of the year, the recording engineers would do put together a
blooper reel.
Yes.
Or a gag reel. Yeah.
Oh my God. Chris Hardwick. I did a show called Back at the Barnyard. That was a spinoff of a movie that Kevin James.
Fantastic. When he was the cow. Yes.
Yeah. Really great. And Chris, not only one of my dearest friends in the world, but stupid talented and funny, incredibly quick. And he played
very much inspired the way we do the podcast.
Oh,
that's why there's no intro and we just talk the way we do.
Yep. And just greatest guy. And his brain is just astonishing. And so when we would do Back at the Barnyard, oh my God, every day. In fact, the first day I worked with, I'd already known him because Maurice and I had been on his podcast. And that was like yours. It was just a blast. But I knew how clever he was. But the first day I worked with him on Barnyard, somebody's phone went off during a recording session. The tape was whatever it was rolling, and it was that kind of we all know that
Nokia sound, yeah.
Without missing a beat, Chris says, I still don't know how to program my phone. I still don't know how to program my phone. And I lost it. I just thought, holy shit. He didn't even think. It was organic. The sound happens. And because it was interruptive, I still don't know how to program my phone. Oh my God. And it didn't stop. And that gag reel, I don't care how old you are, you have to wear Depends. It's crazy how funny it is. So yeah, it all happens because we're all technically adults, but Phil Hartman was one of my dear. Oh my God, you're in a room with Phil? Nothing.
I like the idea that there's somewhere might exist an audio of Winnie the Pooh cussing.
Well,
I guarantee you there's probably plenty of that.
I don't know if there's a specific reel that, or a volume of reels, but having known Jimmy since 80, 81, and through two marriages, several kids. Jimmy and I are very close. I was on his podcast. He's been on mine several times when I was doing it. And I can guarantee you that the number of times that I could not get my breath because Winnie the Poop, I don't know. But he is another one, stupid gifted, and also a remarkable, obviously a great actor. In fact, I remember a few years ago, remember the movie that came out with, oh God, I'll remember, McGowan, Christopher Robin. Ewan McGregor. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. But there was, I saw a trailer for the movie when I was at a theater, and in which Ewan is talking to Winnie. It's Jim. And it was excellent. I mean, it really was. It was a charming movie, and they both did a great job. But I saw the trailer, and I went to work one day with Jimmy after seeing it. I said, dude, I got to tell you, man, I just saw like a 3-minute trailer. You killed it. I've yet to see the movie, but dude, I mean, I don't think it'd be out of the realm of possibility one day to get an Oscar for that category because you're remarkable just in the trailer. Oh, thanks, Robbie. It was a lot of fun. Ewan was cool. Okay, forgot about it. A month later, I saw the cover of Vanity Fair with Ewan on the cover and Winnie, and it said there is an Oscar-worthy performance in Christopher Robin, and it's not Ewan McGregor. And they were talking about Jim. It was fantastic. Not only his performance, and it was justifiably so that Vanity Fair made that pronouncement on their cover. And again, boy, you want to talk about seeing people who fall apart in a mess because of the importance of Winnie the Pooh in their young lives or the lives of their children who are maybe ill or struggling with an emotional challenge or whatever. That those parents really fall apart. And I've had people grown up start crying when they hear me do my thing, but that's a different level for Winnie the Pooh. But I also have seen really incredibly beautiful women melt when he says, "Oh, I think you're sweeter than honey." And it's like, "Oh, here's my phone number. Just call me. I'm 31. It doesn't matter. If you're
Getting
single."
Smooth talk by Winnie the Pooh.
Oh my God. And Tom Kenny, SpongeBob, my niece, who is now 35, Tom called her and left a wonderful message on her phone machine when she was 12. And she still has it. It's like, my God, SpongeBob called me 20 years ago. Jesus. This stuff is incredible.
We were talking about blooper reels. We're talking about blooper reels. I think the funniest one that I ever heard in my life, back in '85, there was a cartoon called Thundercats, and it had Larry Kenny, Bob McFadden.
Oh yeah,
Peter Newman was in there. There's another litany of amazing voice actors, but listening to them try to read scripts and just get the blooper reels out of it, who the talks like this, but in the voice of Lion-O. So it's it's mind blowing how entertaining it is.
I have in fact, go ahead, whichever one of you would like to ask me, Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? I have one that I've come up with that
we're gonna save that because that's on the list.
Okay, great. Fair enough. And it's not blue. It's just a little.
He's laughing uncontrollably for a reason because we
talked about this just before we got on here. We were talking about this. He goes, "I have the greatest question to end this with."
Yeah.
He goes, "I have the greatest question to end this interview with." I'm like, "Okay."
Mm-hmm.
And then we proceeded to give our favorite lines from that entire exchange.
Oh, I think so, Blaine. But me and Pippi Longstocking, what would the children look like? You know, whatever they look like, they'd be loved. Or I think so.
My favorite one would still be, "I think so, Brain. But where are we going to find rubber pants in our size?"
Isn't that great? And
I would say mine was like, I think so, Brian, but where are we going to get ducks to wear long pants?
Yes. How are we going to get the dwarf to stand still? Or
were all these written or were these improv?
Well, I was just going to say, most of them were written, and the gentleman who was one of the co-creators of that, Tom Ruger and Peter Hastings, who went on to direct Dogman, and just a remarkable writer.
Not Dogma, Dogman.
Dogman, yeah, the cartoon. But crazy gifted writer, but they all were. Charlie Howell and Peter and Gordon Bressak and, oh my God, Deanna Oliver and Sherry, remarkable writers. But then when Pinky the Brain started, became its own show, I was like, hey, can I just throw out a couple of those if you guys are rolling? Sure, we don't give a shit if the guy who's the board op, the late great Harry Andronis, came up with a couple because they were all non sequiturs, and that was the idea. Mm-hmm. I came up with one that said, I think so, Brain, but burlap does chafe me so. And any of them are good. I think so, Brain, but if they called them sad meals, no one would buy them. Or if we didn't have ears, we'd look like weasels. And so anyway, when you feel like you want to ask me, I've got one that Mo. Mo and
it's coming. I'll say this. Yeah. I'll say this. You've been insanely generous with your time. And we do have an end of the podcast questionnaire that we like to do because we're not very good podcasters. So we steal from somebody else who's done it better.
Yeah, go ahead.
But before we get to that questionnaire, I've got one important question I've always wanted to know.
Great.
The Animaniacs. What the hell are they? Are they cats?
Question. We do. In fact, we do a song called "What Are We?" Maybe we are dogs. Maybe we are cats. Maybe we are blah blah blah. And then at the end, they're singing the song to Dr. Scratch and Sniff, which is also yours truly. And I stole that voice from Peter Sellers because my favorite movie of all time is Dr. Strangelove. And that performance, Peter, was just. And so he's now dead, so I can steal shit from him all day long. Thank you, Peter. But at the end of the song, they say, maybe we're this, maybe we're that. But what we are is clear and absolute. What we are, dear doctor, is cute. And that's it. They don't ever say what they are. They go through all these. I think
it's really one of the great questions of animation, just like, what is Goofy?
Yeah. Well, and also
Goofy's a goof. He's a goof.
Dog or a cow.
And I did.
Doesn't matter. He's a goof.
Yeah. And Billy Farmer, another guy who's just not only just a great man, but very smart. I have to say, I don't know anybody I've worked with for years at this level who is not bright. Some of them aren't as strong as improv as the others, but they're all smart. And they all have not only their gifts, but they have this innate sense of, as Billy West says, fearlessness. And fearlessness in real life is being a cop or a fireman or choosing to be in the military. That's a different story. But fearless to the extent that we don't care if it makes people make fun of us. Who knows what a Goofy sounds like, right? And so Goofy, we all did a show with Bill and myself, and and Jim Cummings, who played Pete, my dad. And I played a character called PJ, Pete Jr. And we did a show called Goof Troop, and then we did a Goofy movie. Now, that was 30 years ago last year. Oh my goodness. I had no idea how many people grew up with that movie and love it.
Oh, it's timeless. Yeah.
Goofy movies.
And the song too and everything. Yeah.
Oh.
It's still in my rotation, and it comes around every year or two. I have to watch Goofy, the Goofy movie.
A charming movie. But anyone who's been a parent gets the difficulty of that whole dynamic between Pete and Max. I mean, between Goofy and Max. And those two actors Billy Farmer as Goofy and Jason Marsden as Max, that performance where they're both saying, look, I love my dad. Look, I love my son. I don't know how come Dad dropped me off here. Well, why? So it's raining. I can drop you off. No, just drop me off. And then Goofy drives off, really perplexed. Like, why? How come I'm not getting what's making my son upset? We've all struggled with that. I struggled with my dad, and I struggled with my son, and same with moms, right? Why is my daughter not? What am I missing? I was a little girl. I know it's tough. I know, both when the hormones are bouncing around. Same with my son. It's tough, but it's like she hates me. How does that happen? And they addressed that in the movie, and it was charming, heartrending, and that is as a result of Kevin Lima, who wrote and directed it and stood his ground. If you see, we did a really lovely little documentary that we didn't know was going to turn into a documentary that is available on Disney Plus called Not Just a Goof. And in it, you see a bunch of us years ago. I had a hockey mullet, and it was considerably darker. But in it, we hear things. I knew that this was a labor of love for Kevin Lima, but he had to go to battle for just trying to maintain the integrity of Goofy. The studio, which is not so much anymore, but used to often be the case, is they would take a well-known property and infuse it with a celebrity talent. Well, so the studio said, what about Steve Martin? Well, Steve Martin's fabulous, but it's not about Steve Martin. It's about Goofy. And Billy is only like the third or fourth Goofy in history. And now he's been doing it for 37 years. By that time, he'd already been doing it for 7 or 8 years. And it's not about that. Well, it was Kevin, who was not a well-known guy in Hollywood, but, he got this thing sold to Disney, and he went to bat to the folks in the tower and said, oh, no, you can't do this. The audience won't watch it. After Goofy opens his mouth once. And fortunately, cooler heads prevail. But when you see this little documentary, it's precious because we know that he was right, that the reason it turned out to be so powerful and so entertaining and charming and funny and all of it. And even though it wasn't Lion King or Little Mermaid, it was none of the big properties. But look what happened. It absolutely.
Did they want Steve Martin to be Goofy?
Yes. That was
That's
the suggestion.
To me.
That's almost as bad as putting Tiffany in as Judy Jetson.
Well, thank you. How's that for a cool?
Bring it full circle.
That, my friends,
I don't know the gentleman's
showbiz podcasting callback. Well done, Kip.
I don't know the gentleman's name now, and I'm sure he's a fine person, does a great job. But like you say, we grew up on all these different things. I grew up on the Muppets as well, and the gentleman who does the voice of Kermit the Frog now sounds nothing like the Kermit I grew up with.
Right.
And it unfortunately has kind of taken me out of it.
Well,
and like you said, it's the moment you hear it, your brain decides, whoa, that's not my Kermit, or that's not my Goofy, that's not my this or that,
First of all, nobody's going to be Jim Henson. Nobody's ever going to be Jim Henson.
And there's no
Steve Whitmire came close. Whitmire came close.
Right.
But
and
Matt Vogel, who you're speaking about.
Guy Gilchrist, one of the brilliant animators, is a dear friend. It's just a gas to watch him draw Muppets and see these things, these videos of him and Jim, he and Jim together. Oh my God. And same with Steve, wonderful guy. And the stories they have about Jim freaking Henson. Oh, what a privilege to hear them. It's like people who were like at the Last Supper. Jesus was a pretty good tipper, but Judas, we did karaoke and he chose Backstabbers. But it's a great story, that kind of stuff. But when you hear them talking about with such reverence, and rightfully so, about Jim, it's cool as hell. Yeah. But your audience, if you like Goofy Movie, go back to Disney Plus and watch this, not just a goof documentary, because you see what, for a young director, writer, he had a lot of courage, to go to Michael Eisner and whomever, and he's not going to fight with him, but he said, I'm telling you, please let me have this. You won't regret it. And 30 years later, boy, was he correct. And cut to, we did a reboot of Pinky the Brain and Animaniacs, which many people didn't like. No problem. That's fair enough. We couldn't do the same stuff and get away with it now. I couldn't say hello nurse anymore. The suggestion is that it's it's a different time. I totally understand.
I guess it is a bit of a cat call. I never really thought of it like that.
It is, and I don't know any woman in my life whom I love, my ex, or people that I know, younger women who have not been subjected to that bullshit. And while they may not have a problem with Hello Nurse, I get it when I do have to watch myself, because if I say, oh, sweetheart, I always apologize. And almost always the person, if I'm like doing a podcast where one of the hosts or the host is a young woman, I apologize immediately, because I know that that doesn't fall the same way as it does on me. Every time the young woman is very gracious. Thank you very much. Not a problem. But I remember probably 10 years ago at Nickelodeon, where there was a young intern, lovely young girl as an intern from Iowa, going to Iowa State, and came out for the summer and whatever. And she said, may I get a picture with you, Mr. Paulsen? I said, only if you call me Rob, sweetheart. And she said, oh, okay, Rob. And, it was very sweet. And as I was leaving, one of the producers said, hey, Rob, can you stand by? We're going to chat with us about something. I said, sure. I thought maybe they want to do a pickup. And this wonderful producer, who is still a dear friend, said, I just have to ask you, can you, maybe be careful with this, sweetheart and sweetie and honey. And I know that you don't mean anything by it, and that's just the cut of your jib. And I said, oh my God, of course I would never. And they said, no. But you never know when the person to whom you're saying it, they don't know, and they might go to HR, and we love you. We don't want you. Oh my God. Thank you. And I'll never forget this, because the next day I had to jump on a plane. And as I'm walking to get on the plane, my beep, I do my ticket. I said, thank you. She says, my pleasure, sweetheart. I said, it was a young woman, probably, 30, 35, not a child, but my pleasure, sweetheart. I hope you enjoy your flight. Anyway, it's not lost on me. But the point I'm making is that we went through this thing with Kevin Lima about Steve Martin. What didn't disrupt anything, but it was something that was important in the construction of the movie. So in 2020 or 2019, 2018, whatever, I got a call from Sam Register, who still is the head of Warner Brothers Animation. And he said, well, Rob, you're sitting down? And I said, have I been fired? Because that's where every actor goes right away. If a boss calls you, oh my God, what did I do? Right. He said, no. He said, well, Steven wants to do Animaniacs again. And he'll only do it if it's with you, Tress, Jess, and Maurice, because it is about the authenticity of the character. Of course, we're not going to say no, we lost our minds, but it was a remarkable thing to know that the king of Hollywood, who has been nothing but delightful to all of us, post Animaniacs and other things we worked on, make sure that we're included and press check this out. This is the kind of gentleman Steven Spielberg is, and why he has that integrity, and why the same guy that can make you laugh can make you fall apart watching Schindler's List. It's just amazing, right? So it was Steven who said to Warner Brothers, because he obviously represents Amblin and co-production, only if we get Yakko, Wacko, Dot, and Pinky in the Brain. I won't do it. I know they can do it because I've seen Rob and Randy doing Animaniacs in concert, and Rob can still do the character and the song, and Pinky and Maurice. I've seen video of Mo and Rob. So, yeah, I know that Tress is still working. Jess, if they want to, do we want to? But check this out. He said they pitched it to Apple, Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. And Steven requested that Warner Brothers get our 8x10s, whatever our press photos are, the 4 main cast members, get them blown up, because Steven went to every pitch for the reboot of a cartoon, folks. He was in the room when they pitched it and put up these things and said, just so you know, this isn't about Liam Neeson being the brain and Russell Brand being Pinky. This is about these actors.
God, that would be awful. Sorry.
Right? But
that would be awful.
Stranger shit has happened,
Oh, I'm sure.
And so, look, we want to do this. I'm in it. I'm, hands-on, just like before. But we don't want to recast. The actors can do it. I want them to do it. And we don't do it unless this happens. And he can get away with that. And I have to tell you, first, having that gentleman go to bat for Rob Paulsen from Grand Blanc, Michigan? Come on, man. I'm still the guy who goes, I got to meet Gordie Howe at a father-son banquet when I was 13. I lost my mind, and I still have that autograph. I don't even know what to tell you what that means to me, that guy. Okay, so we did it. We had a blast. And when we did like a virtual press tour, like with you, I'm sitting here and we talk to different press for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then go to the next one. And I think I did 40 of them in 2 days, and it was nothing but an absolute pleasure, of course, because everybody I spoke to was so happy. All of them. New York Times, Washington Post, it didn't matter. And almost everyone, call back to Judy Jetson, almost every one of them said, oh my God, they sent us the screener. And when all of you opened your mouths, we thought, they got the real actors. And
right.
It's, if you're going to do it with a show that had, it's like, you can't recast Bart and Homer. Never going to happen. I don't care how much you're paying them. It's not enough. If you're thinking about recasting, then you're barking up the wrong tree, because that's the longest running show in the history of television.
The day Nancy
I'm
Cartwright
convinced that's going to
she's
go
done,
until somebody dies.
Yeah. And I was just on
have.
Nancy's podcast last week. Nancy Cartwright has her own podcast. So, and I've known her since she's the only actor I've known who came out here from Dayton, Ohio. And she's the only actress I know who came out here specifically to do cartoons. And she and I were working on a project years ago when we were both 25. We had the same agent. And we went out to lunch at a place called Marie Callender's that is no longer here in Burbank. And I knew that she wanted to do cartoons. And I said, so are you get any auditions? Like, well, I don't know, but are you a fan of Tracy Ullman? I said, oh yeah, I've been. She said, we're doing these little interstitial cartoons based on this comic strip called Life in Hell, that at that time was a comic strip in a free weekly magazine newspaper called LA Weekly, done by Matt Groening. Life in Hell. Characters look the same. Okay. So we're doing these little interstitials by the guy who did this. So I don't know, got my fingers crossed. They just got booked through season 38 or something like that.
Wow.
But you just never know. So you see my point, that when the king of Hollywood says, oh, this is too precious. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it this way. Or if we don't, we won't do it, because it's pretty good. You go back and watch it just the way it is, and It's great. But if we're going to do it, I'm in, and the other actors are in. Are you guys in? And Hulu said yes. So I'm, with all due respect to Lou Gehrig, folks, with the kindness of you two gents and the utter kindness of your audience, with all due respect to Lou Gehrig, I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And I have no problem, going down believing that.
I would disagree. I would disagree, and I would say that we're the luckiest people on earth right now because we get the pleasure of sitting here and talking to you for 2 hours.
Well, thank you, young
shoulders
man.
with giant.
Thank you. Well, and that for a guy who's 5'9.5" and $155 soaking wet, I will emulate my hero and say, thank you, boys. I've worked too hard for this privilege. And I can guarantee you already know this because you've talked to others, but any of the other people whom we brought up, understandably, every one of them is just like you and me. Just Jim's from Youngstown, Ohio. We're just people who said, to this day, I wear long sleeves all the time because my arms are black and blue from pinching myself. How did I like David Byrne? Well, how did I get here? So however you guys decided to have me on, thank you. It's been an absolute gas.
It's been a massive pleasure for us too. As we said, you are a big part of our childhood when we look back and see all the different things that you've done and all the times you've brought smiles to our faces. Well, and you're very humble. You might not realize it, but when you talk about people like Spielberg and this and that, and you're standing shoulders to shoulders with giants because you are one in our eyes as well.
Well, thank you so much. And I always tell people, because you're right, the joy and the laughter. And I've appropriated Reader's Digest has always had a segment at the end of their little, magazine, which was a big deal to me as a kid, because there's a part that said, laughter is the best medicine. It's all jokes in the last 2 or 3 pages. And so I've appropriated that. I say, laughter is the best medicine. You can't OD and the refills are free. And it's true. And the number of times that I have seen people who have no business, in my view, being happy or smiling, find a way to laugh at a Pinky in the Brain or laugh at, SpongeBob, whatever it is. And then they come to tell me how much it meant to them. Like you. You got to laugh, folks, especially now. Especially now. This is a difficult time. I don't know, our kids, I feel so bad for younger folks. I mean, how do you reconcile this madness, Anyway, that's a different show, but thank you. Thank you. Now, what you got questions, right?
Yep.
You had mentioned stealing from the gentleman who passed away for Dr. Scratch and Sniff.
Yes.
We steal from 2 gentlemen who passed away as well, Mr. Bernard Pivot and Mr. James Lipton. So, Kip, go ahead. With
James
the
Lipton.
here.
Great. Now, the other gentleman I'm not familiar with, but Mr. Lipton,
Bernard James Lipton at the end of his show would ask a questionnaire that was created by Bernard Pivot.
Oh,
we have pirated said questionnaires. So
thank you for letting me. I learned. Thank you. That's a really cool thing to know. I love that show. What
is your favorite word?
Well, after having seen Robert Redford, it's pretty hard not to say fuck, because I stole that from Mr. Redford. No, I'm just kidding. Although I have to say, the word has become such a part of our lexicon. You can't quite say it on broadcast television, but I remember the first time my wife spoke that word in front of my son, and I was like, geez, honey. Oh my God, Rob. He's 12. Exactly. He's 12. Yeah, but he hears
worse on the playground.
Exactly. And
he's got the internet.
Yes. And I had to learn that it's true. It is not so much a pejorative word anymore. It can be. And so it's a really lovely word because you can use it in that way. Yesterday, the president used it when go Teamsters, a young guy from Detroit at the Ford factory in Dearborn called him mosquito protector or something. Go.
Jeez.
Yeah. Go Lions. And apparently Trump told him to F off. But that's it. So it is a great word. My favorite word. I think my favorite word is yes. Because a big part of my career has been about never saying no, whether there's money involved or not. Every time I'm asked to maybe help a friend put together a sizzle reel, an animated sizzle reel that he's spending his own money on, and we'll say, hey, Robbie, I can give you $500. I need you to do a couple of characters. I got a 4-minute reel. It's really killer. But I just want to, I would love for you to have your imprimatur when I pitch it. I said, sure, buddy, no problem. Keep your $500, dump it into the pitch. And if you sell it, I'd love to get a shot to read for it. I don't expect them to say, oh, no, if I sell it, you're in it. Because they don't necessarily have that choice. Once they give it to somebody who's going to give them $5 million, it's about their call. But more than 3 different times I've done that. And twice it's ended up being shows that lasted for more than 2 seasons because same thing with people. Honest to Christ, you guys, we're talking in real time from a couple thousand miles away or whatever it is. And you could have this conversation if I were in Iceland immediately or South Africa. We're able to connect with people in real time. It's astonishing. And if we're not able to use this technology to spread things that are helpful, here's the word, what the fuck is the point? It's too hard to not try to help. So yeah, I think yes is my favorite word. I had a big fat yes when I was diagnosed with throat cancer 10 years ago now. I'm fine. But I was told that, we can save you, but before we do, we almost got to kill you. And they did. I lost 50 pounds. It's brutal. It's your mouth, your throat, but it worked like a charm. So are you ready to do this? Yes, I'm in. So that's my favorite word. I promise the 4 other descriptions won't last like as long as Chicago Bears playbook.
What is your least favorite word?
Probably no. And I don't mean that in a sense as a youngster. Let me say, I got to be careful. I want to make sure that I make this clear. As a youngster, when I had my first real girlfriend, my dad said, hey, let's go down and play pool. Rob, Mary's lovely. Oh my God, she's great. She's really smart. I know she's lovely. Her parents are lovely too. Just want to let you know, pal, you're the oldest in the family, and I was a boy too. You're 18. Not going to have that talk. You know how that goes. But if I ever hear that you got sideways with Mary, or she said no, man, you didn't, I'm going to believe her. So no is a great word too. And I remember my wife, it took me forever to ask her out. And she said, God, I thought you were gay. And I said, well, some people, I'm not afraid to hug a man. Actually, I'm ecstatic. But so I was very, very respectful of women, and I still am. So, but in a writ large, no I don't like that word. Because it suggests that I can't. But if I'm pitching something to you and you say no, okay, bummer. Well, I got to find somebody who says yes. So their no, while I don't like it, has been quite motivating. I've done maybe 2,500 half hours of animation. And the number of things I've auditioned for is far more than that. So we don't get most of what we audition for. That's always the way it is with being a performer or being a songwriter. The door gets closed. But if you hang in long enough and you continue to learn, surround yourself with people who are better, because I'm a perfect example. I'm the boat that the high tide has raised the last 47 years. And you will get a shot, maybe two. Whether you're ready for it, that's a different story, because getting lucky is part of the equation. But having a career and not be done after 2 years on a sitcom, that's a different story. Because when you're done with the sitcom, if you want a career, you gotta keep going. You gotta learn to embrace the hustle. And it's much easier to embrace the hustle when you're surrounded by people who do it as well and don't have a problem. Like Billy West. Are you kidding me? He says, yeah, I'll audition. That's not about money. He wants to do the work. He's got plenty of it, you know? So I don't like no, but I'll accept it.
Okay.
As currency.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh my goodness. What sound or noise? Well, I have a place at the ocean, and that's a pretty difficult sound not to love. But there are certain, music is like air to me. I know we all have music has gotten us through impossibly difficult times, and there are certain passages of music that are my favorite. I'm not a particularly religious guy, not a big believer. However, I will never lose my sense of awe, my willingness to be dumbstruck. I'm not gonna succumb to being jaded. There's too much wonderful stuff. For instance, the first time I heard Luciano Pavarotti, I think it was with the Chicago Symphony on a video, singing selections from different Pagliacci operas. In this case, it was Nessun Dorma, which is a very familiar melody from an opera called Turandot, written by Verdi. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But it's da 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 da. But when he sings it with that gift, it always brings me to tears. I don't associate it with anything but itself. It's that Latin phrase. It's ars gratia artis. It's art for art's sake. And despite the fact that I'm not particularly a believer, I don't have any problem with it. I'm just, I love that I can listen to something like that, or certain passage, the music from the movie The Thief of Baghdad, which was, I don't know, in the 30s or 40s. That soundtrack is just incredibly powerful. The theme from Schindler's List, in which with the violin solo of Itzhak Perlman, when we all know the subject matter, and at the same time that it's inhuman and incalculable evil, that at the end of the show, we see all these names of people who lived as a result of what Oskar Schindler did. But that theme is haunting and horrifying and beautiful at the same time, with John Williams music, no surprise. Mm-hmm. But the way that Itzhak plays it, when I hear people like that performing at that level, I love the fact that I still have a little room in the back of my head that says, God, I don't know what it is, but the way that human is singing that, it kind of an argument for the existence of a deity, isn't it, Rob? Where does that come from? Is that just he happened to be good singer? Well, of course he's gifted, but oh my God. I like that aspect of spirituality. Like I said, I don't believe that is just Oh, he's a good singer. We should send him to singing school. It's just magic, and it's timeless. And that's why we still love listening to, not only the old masters, Beethoven and Shostakovich and Mahler, but, the, oh God, all the songwriters from the 40s and 50s, Johnny Mercer, and, the Gershwins. That stuff will never, ever go, just like the Beatles. It'll never go away. So it is a privilege still for me to hear that stuff. And I just sort of, as they say, suspend my disbelief and allow the music to do what it does to me every time. So those are several of my favorite sounds that I just can't get enough of.
What sound or noise do you hate?
I hate, oh boy, it's a hard one. I hate the sound of poor people wailing because all they did is wake up and their homes are getting bombed. The things that we all know how impossibly fortunate we are just to be in a place that's not, sorry, it gets dark here, that getting bombed. But I remember probably 5-6 years ago, I was watching a documentary about these refugee camps in Syria. And it's nothing. It's just dirt and some tents that whomever, the Red Cross, I don't know. But it's nothing. And there are two little boys, look to be about 8 or 9, playing with a half-inflated soccer ball, and they're both wearing Ninja Turtle T-shirts. And at first, of course, I was like, wow! And then I thought, wow, that's could be the only clothing they have. And I don't care whether it's Ukraine or anywhere here with that horrible flood in Texas or the big flood in North Carolina. Just seeing people who have lost everything or never had much to begin with. And by an accident of birth, they're in Somalia or they're in the Sudan or they're, in Gaza or whatever. And the Jews who were at the kibbutz that was attacked, it doesn't matter to me. You see all these people who are just utterly broken and they're, they do this wail that I can't even conceive of. It's just this guttural.
The absolute sound of despair.
Yes, utter despair. And again, also, as much as I hate that sound, I don't want to become inured to it. I don't ever want to accept that as, there's another thing that I can't do anything about. Yeah, you're right. I can't do anything about it, but I can at least acknowledge that I've never experienced that kind of pain. I don't even know how to contextualize it. That guttural sound of people screaming is something it tears me up.
Okay. Creatively, what turns you on?
Creative people. And boy, have I been around a lot of them. Paul Rubens, one of the nicest men in the world. And I remember watching him put together Pee-wee and thinking, what am I doing here? What? This guy created it. He's got the characters. And then this guy's brought in Phil Hartman. What? Oh my God. And not only that, I love them because their creativity, but they were lovely. Paul Rubens didn't miss sending me a Christmas card for 27 years.
Wow.
And, he's Jewish. It didn't matter to him. I know he did it to a lot of people, but he was like that with his fans, So yeah, creative people, because I'm surrounded by them and my life. And by the way, present company included, because you don't have a successful podcast unless you take the time to put it together, figure it out, learn what works, what doesn't. Oh, and the competition is impossible. and growing every day. So yeah, I don't care.
I appreciate that, because you could have just stopped at "You don't have a successful podcast."
Well, that's why
you really could have. I appreciate it.
We're cut from the same cloth. That's why I said at the beginning, thank God you lowered your standards for me. Hey, I got an Emmy, motherfucker. That.
I'm just doing what women have done for me throughout my life. They lower their standards to raise mine,
Exactly. That's what I say. If I walk up to somebody, if I happen to be walking next to somebody a woman who happens to yawn, I say, I'm so sorry. I have that effect on virtually every woman. I'm so sorry to have bothered you with that. And they inevitably laugh, but no, creative people, because they're willing to take a risk. They're willing to take a punch. We know nobody gets out of here without a bunch of them. But I like the story with Phineas and Ferb. What a great story, huh? And imagine how much help Dan and Swampy are to other creators. Yeah, I know. It's your 12th pitch in a row. You didn't get it, did you? Hang in there, buddy. How do I know? Let me tell you about Phineas and Ferb. And Hollywood is full of stories like that. So there you go. Yeah.
Okay. In the same vein, creatively, what turns you off?
Arrogance. No one is good enough to be an asshole. And I have to say it's rare, thank God, but I go to these conventions and they're wonderful. Every now and then there will be an actor, he or she will have this very laissez-faire attitude, like, oh yeah, and the voice of your child. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, did you want your name on this? What's your name, Mary? Yeah, hang on, Mary. Hey, buddy, come over here, give me a hug. Hang on. Yeah, oh, thank you, great. And Mary, did you say Mary? Yeah, thanks a lot. Hey, how you doing? Bullshit. If you're going to pull that, then don't come. These folks ask you to come, first class ticket, nice hotel, make a nice chunk of dough. You may not make as much, doesn't matter. But the least that can happen is that you will go home having met people who went out of their way to tell you how much they love you for doing what you would have done for free. So yeah, that nobody is that good. Having worked, like I mentioned, how Stephen was, how Gordy was, all the people that I've mentioned, DiMaggio, Matt Groening, Prince. And nobody is good enough to be a dick. Now, there's a difference between being professional. I mean, Barbra Streisand for years got a real hard rap about what a bitch. Now, I don't know her. I've never worked with her, but I know people who have, whom I've known for years. Rob, it's not her name when she's directing. It's her name. This is about directing, by the way. Paul Williams, the great songwriter, who was like a teddy bear, 83 now, and I've had the pleasure of knowing him what a talent, right? Salt of the earth. So I said to him one day, because he co-wrote Evergreen from A Star Is Born with Barbara, which won an Oscar, and Paul wrote Rainy Days and Mondays, all those Carpenter songs, Just an Old-Fashioned Love Song, you name it. So I said, what was it like? And I was expecting to hear, she can be tough. I'm working with Barbra Streisand. Paul lived in Hollywood, and Barbara has a big ranch in Malibu on the ocean. And she said, well, she was difficult in a technical way, because she would call me and say, Paulie, I came up with some ideas. Can you get out here in an hour? And he goes, like 1:30 in the morning. It's, 45-minute ride. And he didn't want to argue with her because she's Barbra Streisand. And so he didn't say, I'm Paul Williams. He thought, she chose to write a song with me. So he's saying, is it possible? I can't. It's just, look, I got to go. Can you just be out here in an hour? And so he went. And he said, but she wasn't difficult. She had very high standards. She definitely could get away with things that other people can't. But we won an Oscar. And she knew what she was doing. And so I was accommodating. And it changed my perception of the difference being an arrogant prick and being somebody like Stephen could say, Jesus, that's not what I asked for. because he's got a million other things going on, but it wouldn't destroy everybody. He didn't berate anybody or go after him, or not, or worse, ignore the people who put him on the map. When you're arrogant with your fans, no patience, zero. It's one thing in the working environment because there is so much pressure, but even the people who do that, it's not constant, and they do not do it in front of their fans. When Steven Spielberg knows the power of his presence. So if he's at an event like the launch of Animaniacs, everybody, artists, blah, blah, blah. When he comes down there, he is there for his people because those folks made him Steven Spielberg. And so he makes sure he knows everybody's name. Make sure he says, check this out. When I was at that event, 1993, my son was 8. Stephen, Rob, oh my God, Yakko's World. Oh my God, Rob, what a pleasure. And where's Maurice? You two guys. Oh boy. Is this your son? I said, yeah. He was 8. This is what Stephen said. Do you mind if we get a picture? Do you mind if everybody with a pulse wants a picture? But he knows that most of us, including me, would say, I wish I'd asked, but I didn't want to bother him. He's so nice. I didn't want to bother him, everybody else. So he says, you know what? I'm here for an hour and a half. I'm going to make it easy on people because I don't want them to go home and say, shit, I wish I'd gotten a picture with Steven. How about that? So forgive me. If you're going to be a dick where people who've literally paid your rent are and to children, no, and not in a million years. So bet you're sorry you asked me all those questions. We added another 25 minutes onto your show.
We're not even done yet.
Great.
I got 2. I got 3 more questions.
Okay, let me turn on. Oh, there I am. Okay, go ahead.
we already covered this one a little bit, but what is your favorite curse word?
My favorite what?
Curse word.
Oh, curse words. Oh, well, the F word's a big one. I love the phrase, you're as full of shit as a Christmas goose. I don't know why. I heard a friend of mine, dad, say that once when I was 11.
Sounds like something my dad would have said.
Isn't that great? He was talking to somebody. Oh, Jesus Christ, you're as full of shit as a Christmas goose. I like that. I have several British friends, very funny people, who are really adept at using the C word. And while most of the time it is inappropriate on this side of the pond, unless I know I don't do it on stage, like I have a one-man show I'm working on. But yeah, if I'm in the right company, okay. But my British friends, Pythons, I don't know them. I got to meet John Cleese in Detroit a while back, which was mind-blowing. But these people who are very funny British comics and funny British actors, boy, do they know how to use that word.
Oh, yeah.
Peter Cook
They're
and
like
Dudley
master
Moore.
craftsmen.
Oh, my God. Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. If you guys want to hear something, you and your audience that will make you howl if you're not offended by foul language, go on YouTube and search Derek and Clive, Derek, and Clive, Clive. It's Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. And all they did was turn on the tape. They got a little hammered. I think Peter used to drink a lot. Anyway, they're probably a little bit tweaked, but they just go. They just riff. And it is as blue as the ocean and impossibly funny and clever because they just wing it. And you hear the tape starting and we're rolling, and then Dud goes and burps. I said, testing, don't test any longer. And then he says, what's the worst job you ever had? Dudley asked Peter Cook, what's the worst job you ever had? Now, they might have said, ask me about a job, whatever. And Peter says, the worst job I ever had was an awful job. I had to retrieve all the lobsters that went up Jane Mansfield's bum because she lived in Malibu and loved to swim in the ocean. And those lobsters jump straight up her bum. And it was my job, my fucking job, to pull those fucking lobsters out of. Now, and then Peter would say, "What's the worst job ever?" Then, well, my job was much more deep. I had to collect up all the phlegm what Sir Winston Churchill gobbed up every night, because he drank so much brandy and smoked so many cigars. He was always producing phlegm, big, giant fucking bogies. And it was my job to carry the bucket of all that phlegm, catching all. And interestingly, one of his bogies was as big as a Thai fucking tannic, but it was not seaworthy. Bogies are not I mean, it's just utter madness, but they don't stop, and it's effortless. And so for somebody who's tweaked and creative, and I'm inspired by Jonathan Winters, Carol Burnett, Steve Martin, but also the Pythons and new comics, and they're all wonderful in their own way and inspiring. And I know a lot of them, but boy, are they adept with that word, and it's quite remarkable at how much it makes me laugh. So sorry. Yeah.
All right. Well, and this is my favorite question of this list. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Who the hell are you? If heaven exists, you mean more than the heaven I'm experiencing right now with you two gents?
Sure.
Okay. So if the traditional heaven exists,
yes.
What I hope I hear is, "Oh, Rob, thanks for coming. We got a table over here with Mr. Sellers, Mr. Howe, Mr. Winters, and oh my gosh, who else is that? Let's see. We got Joan Rivers. You want to go? You go sit with them. You got it's a table like forever, but what do you think?" That's what I would love to say. I would love to say, "Can you go sit with next to Peter Sellers and Mr. Howe?" Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I've saved this one specifically for last because I got to ask. And I've been waiting on this one for, I'll just say, most of my life.
Good.
Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
I think so, Tristan. But if Jack's black and Betty's white, is Marvin gay? Nerve. I thought that was pretty good.
You win.
I win.
And that's where we end it all, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Paulsen,
so
for
thank you, boys.
the
And
2.5 hours you have given us tonight.
Thank you.
It's Rob or asshole. I respond both to them equally well. But we're friends.
Thank
fans.
you so
Fans
much.
are like friends. Fans are just friends whom I've not had the pleasure to meet yet. So I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person and shaking your hands. You've given me.
I hope we get together.
Oh,